Thank you, everybody, for joining this webinar today. We are pleased to have Dr. Kumar with us, and I will introduce him in a minute. Um, but we encourage you to ask questions. So as the presentation goes, if you have questions, feel free to put them in the Q&A section below. It'll be monitored throughout the presentation, and we will interject with questions as we go. And we really want to save time towards the end of this presentation to ask questions. So without further ado, I would like to introduce Dr. Veeresh Kumar. He is with us today and excited to discuss how he leverages Ceribell to optimize his EEG reading and reporting workflows. Dr. Kumar serves as the Vice Chair of Neurology and Medical Director of the Epilepsy Center at St. Francis Hospital in Hartford, Connecticut, and provides epilepsy and EEG services across Trinity Health of New England hospitals. He completed his neurology residency at Rutgers, followed by fellowships in clinical neurophysiology at Montefiore in New York and epilepsy at Emory in Atlanta, where he specialized in stereotactic EEG and epilepsy surgery planning. Dr. Kumar has presented at numerous national and international conferences, and his research has been published in leading medical journals and textbooks. He has over 5 years of experience with Ceribell technology and has interpreted thousands of these EEGs. We couldn't be more excited to have him share his insights with us today. With that, I'll turn it over to him. Welcome, Dr. Kumar.
Thank you. You guys hear me okay? Excellent. All right. Good evening. Well, good afternoon. So let me share with there you go. All right. So today's webinar is going to focus on updates. Cerebral released last month. But before we do that, for folks who are new to cerebral technology, I want to focus on why I brought in Cerebral to my hospital. So I trained in a big university and we had 24/7 EEG service. From there, when I moved here 7 years ago, 8 years ago, getting an EEG done in a timely fashion, especially a stat EEG, what we call after hours, was challenging, right? So we want to change that with leadership role. I wanted to change that and bring rapid EEG, and that's when I introduced cerebral EEG. This is a very nice paper, but I guess you guys know this on how long it's going to take to get an EEG done, especially after hours, not just in community hospitals now, even in university settings. After hours weekends, we face challenges in getting EEGs done in a timely fashion. It may take anywhere from half an hour to up to a day, depending on where you are, to get an EEG done. And the other problem is getting the EEG reviewed and read by a neurologist and epileptologist, which can take another 1 hour to 24 hours, depending on where you are. So that's something I have changed successfully in my hospitals. We have 4 hospitals within a hub using this cerebral technology, and we have changed it in the last 5 years now. So now, jumping to cerebral, I'm going to cover in this one slide um, pretty much what we have with this technology. You have hardware, which is it comes in two different patterns. One is adult size, and there's a headband, the classic one, and now there's a new neonate, which came out, the headband. So this is hardware piece. Then you have software with algorithm. This is called Clarity. Came out 8 years ago and has seen significant improvements every single year. And right now we are at eighth upgrade of Clarity. That's number two. Then you have the reading portal, which can be so easy. All you need is internet connection, ID, and password, and you're going to log in to read these EEGs. And these are the four updates I'm going to show you guys today. So every year, as part of continuous improvement in the platform, the software, company releases once a year upgrade now. So we have 4 updates came out last month. Pretty exciting for neurology community, and we've been asking for all these updates for the last few years. So the company listened, and I'm happy to see these updates. The first one is custom notifications. Then you have EEG reporting tool, which makes your EEG reading really easy and faster. Then you have clarity, which is going to help with EEG screening, looking at seizures and status, then EMR integration. So what I'm going to do today is to go over these 4 updates one by one. Should take 5, 6 minutes per update. But even before I do that, I want to show you guys what's clarity and how it works for folks who are not familiar with this technology. So this is my update number one for you guys today, and that's custom notifications, right? So, and as our team introduced me, and I'm using this technology for 5 years now. One feedback we got from our nursing team is that they connect these EEGs and they have to text and find the on-call person who's on call and text the provider that they set up the EEG because these EEGs are set up by the nurses, right? So sometimes they're busy in ICU and they're not going to be looking at the EEG clarity data all the time, right? Every 30 minutes, every 20 minutes is difficult. That's number one. Number two, for neurologists, then we would hear concerns that they're not getting this notification in a timely fashion. Sometimes clarity is calling seizure patterns at 50, 60%, and they don't get notified. To solve that problem, there's a new release called custom notifications, and it's pretty beautiful, useful in the sense if you have a case up and running, you can set up a custom notification. So you get a text message or an email saying that so and so patient in your hospital, wherever ED or ICU, is now on that EEG. That's number one. Number two, you can customize the way which I'll show on how you can get these notifications, right? That's number one. Number two, you will get a link with that text message. So let's say not in front of a computer, you're out rounding or you're out maybe at dinner. It's very easy, at least to go on that link, open the case, and look at the EEG, get a sense how bad the EEG looks or how good it is, right? So this is a video I recorded to show you how easy it is to open that case on your phone. So let's say you get a text message saying so-and-so patient is in status, and you can use your Face ID to log in, and literally took 2 seconds to go on the case. So then you flip your phone as if you're watching YouTube video, and you look at the Clarity AI data. Then you look at this EEG, get a sense of what's happening with the patient, right? So that's how easy it is to get a notification and open it. Now, if I want to show you how to set that up, I'm going to open up my portal, right? So I'm using Google Chrome. Easy to go on the portal. All you need is ID and password, and you're on the page. So this is my training page or training portal. On top, you see this notification button here. Click on that, and you see my cell phone there, and you have these 9 customization tools that you can change, or you can add, or you can turn on, turn off, right? So for me, I have 3 custom notifications turned on, right? One, two, three, because I want to know when the study is up and running. So I said 20 minutes after the EEG is connected, send me a notification. So that's number one. Number two, when patient goes into status, send me a notification. That's number two. Then when clarity, the AI crosses 10%, anything more than 10%, I get a text message, which is really helpful. So, at 20, 30, 40%, you will see and you can see seizures, tiny focal seizures. So those 3 settings I turned on. Then you save it as a default. I have my cell phone here and it's validated. Then you go to the schedule. Let's say you're on for this week, right? So you're starting your call. It's a Monday. You go on the top, you can say turn on, and that's going to send you those text notifications, and you select the hospitals you're covering. If you don't want that, you can create an advanced schedule. Let's say in November, you're covering from 17th to 23rd. You turn on the shift, you select those days, and you say for those days, you send a notification, and you can make it recurring. Let's say every first week of the month, if you're covering, you can say those 7 days, send me notifications. So it's easy to create your on-call schedule, but the individual provider has to create it. So once that's done, you start getting these custom notifications. So that's number one. Let me go back to the slide. Okay. All right. So topic number two for today is clarity. As I said before, Clarity came out in 2019, and every 6 months to 1 year, there's an upgrade. And there's a big data science team working on Clarity to make the algorithm better in terms of sensitivity, specificity, negative predictive value, and all those numbers which we care, right? So in 2019, the data science team had maybe 10,000 hours of EEG and a small data set of 350 plus EEG cases. Now, the recent release, which is the eighth upgrade, they had 1 million plus hours of EEG data, and they did a tiny, well, a decent sized research on 1,150 cases to look at the numbers. So this is the data, and I want to break down a little bit and spend a minute here. So out of those 1,148 cases, how does the data look in terms of sensitivity and specificity? But it's not a single number. You need to break down the cases into when AI goes more than 90%, or a second bucket between 1 to 90% and a 0%, right? Because it's not a constant number, and you can't take every single case as one data set, right? So we break down the data set into three different categories. So if you have 10 cases where the AI is more than 90%, that's the definition of status, or the Clarity is saying patient is in status. And how does the data look? So the sensitivity goes up to 95% and specificity is 97%, which is really good, and showed improvement compared to last seven upgrade of Clarity. Now between 1 to 90%, you're going to see short seizures, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 4 minutes long seizure, but it's not hitting that status threshold yet, because for that you need 5 minutes of seizure activity. And the numbers are really good also for sensitivity, and specificity drops a little bit. And in my next slide, I'll show you why the specificity drops in that category. Then let's say you take 10 cases and the Clarity is 0. And that's, you're not looking at sensitivity and specificity, you're looking at negative predictive value. And that number is really good at 99.9%, right? So that's where I see value. You do a case and you run a 2-hour EEG, and it's a flat Clarity 0%. You have 99.9% negative predictive value, where that patient is not going to be in status or seizures, which is really impressive. Now, I said the specificity and false alerts came down if you compare Clarity 2023 and 2024 to 2025. In the last 2 months I'm using it, the false alerts and false positives have come down. And there is a reason for that. That's this new AI module called artifact rejection. So on top of Clarity, existing Clarity, there's a new AI called Artifact Rejection Module now, which is going to look for anything which is periodic and stereotypical and artifactual, right? A classic EKG artifact, chewing artifact, EMG noise, maybe IV pump artifact or ventilator artifact, which is very periodic and stereotypical, which can be. Clarity is going to, new AI module, Artifact, is just going to look for it, and it's going to tell Clarity, no, that's not EEG, that's periodic and artifactual, so you don't have to go up on that. So this is the previous algorithm, V7 Clarity, where for the EKG artifact of 2 hertz, the AI went up. And the new Clarity, which you're seeing in green, it remained flat. So that's a very nice case example on showing that improvement in bringing down false alerts. The other piece I want to show on this data is that at lower percentages, which is between 1 to 89%, the specificity drops a little bit. And why is that? We have patterns such as IIC, ictal interictal continuum, you have brief rhythmic discharges, you have a lot of other patterns such as interictal discharges, LPDs, GPDs, and all those patterns they are abnormal, and they can also mimic, if they're high burden and high voltage, they can mimic as an equivalent of IIC. So for me, what I care is that when it's 0, which is a big value, that's 70% of the cases, I don't have to worry middle of the night looking at the full EEG, which gives me quality of life. Then when you have 4% of alarm more than 90%, that's when you may have a tiny bit of false positive. That's okay because I want the AI clarity to be very sensitive. I don't want to miss a single status, but I'm okay with that 0.5% false positive with clarity. So that's my take on this data set, right? So with that clarity, I'm going to show you an actual case where patient goes into status and how to write a nice report on that. Okay, I'll take this case. This patient came in as a stroke mimic, right? So stroke code was called, stroke team when patient was confused. They said, let's get a rapid EEG. So this is that particular case from last year. I'm going to show you because it's a beautiful demonstration of clarity performance on a patient who was in non-convulsive status, number one. Number two, I will also want to show how to report this EEG with a new reporting tool, right? So I'm going to go page by page just to show you. I'm not going to run the full case. So you see there's seizure activity in left frontotemporal, or sorry, temporal-occipital region, the two channels on that end, and it's spreading to the left hemisphere, and there is some spread to the right posterior quadrant, right? And clarity is going up, and at 4.5 minute mark, you see there is an alert, bedside alert saying continuous seizure suspected, and patient remains in status for some time. They gave Ativan, and slowly and gradually that seizure burden breaks down, and you see the AI comes down. In roughly 20 minutes, they treated status, and when you see clarity zero, it's pretty much background slowing, right? Now, if I want to report this case and show you what are the new features, I go to View Report. It's going to open up this template. On the left side, you have 5, 6 sections on how you can build your report quick and easy. And on the right side, it's going to show you how your report is going to look like. So if I walk you through section one, this is all basic for an EEG report, the demographic, the recording information and technique, which you need, especially the recording time is important for your billing, all that automatically pulled. So this EEG reporting tool will automatically pull a lot of sections to help you write a report quickly. You don't have to dictate, you don't have to type in a lot of things, but there are a few things where you can easily click and it's going to help you create a report, right? So what I'm highlighting here, it's all automatic, which is great. Then you go to the next section, clinical history and medications administered during the EEG will be pulled automatically based on nursing annotations, which is again very helpful. Number three, you have 5 basic templates. Let's say it's not, let's ignore for a minute that this is a status case. If it's a slow encephalopathy, one click, it's automatically fill your background information, your impression and clinical correlation. But it's also very helpful. And I annotated 4 or 5 things when I was reading the EEG. So those annotations automatically came to my report, right? Patient had 5 seizures roughly. I wanted to say after status for 26 minutes, patient had 4 more tiny breakthrough seizures. I didn't have to remember and write it down and bring it here. The annotations automatically got transferred to my report, which is very helpful. Then I said LPD when I was reading the EEG, that pulled a nice impression and clinical correlation. And background is slow. So I said diffuse slow when I was reading the EEG, that automatically got into your report. So now I pretty much opened the reporting template and I have all this. Let's say I don't like it, I want to delete it. So whatever automatically filled in, I don't like it. I want to add my own. So we saw some LPDs. You can go to add findings. If you go to manage findings, you see 15 templates based on ACNS guidelines on how to write a report. And I saw LPD, so I just have to say LPD. That's going to pull that sentence for me, which is your clinical impression and correlation. And I can select what I saw, which is abundant LPDs and status. And just by adding that, it's going to help me create that report in a few seconds. Then you can add your disclaimer, you have your signature, you save it. Then you can add nice screenshots, again, based on my annotations and the automated machine pulls. It's going to give you all those annotations. All I have to do is add that, and it's going to nice drop these nice screenshots. Again, very helpful to show the bedside team the seizures and the screenshots for that. And add two more. There you go. You have very nice report. Looks like two-page EEG report with basic information, your background information, the findings, the clinical correlation, and your signature with the screenshots. Now, what do? I copy this to clipboard. Then I go to my EMR, I open it, I paste it, then I'm done with writing a report for this particular case. And I want to show one more thing here. Let's say you don't like the smart phrases and you have your own smart phrases on templates, right? So you go to manage findings and you can create your own. Click on create finding and copy paste from, let's say you have Epic or whichever EMR, and you have your own smart phrases. You can copy from there and paste it here the way I did recently. And I created one for um, lateralized periodic discharges, LPDs. I added my findings and the impression. So it took it and saved it, and you can add 50 smart phrases if you want, and you can put your initials, and that's going to save it for you. So that's a nice way of quickly writing a report. And all I have to do is now copy paste it. Okay, so now I'm going to move on to the next topic. It's called Insights Bar. It's a different case I'm going to show you and show a different algorithm, or you can call this AI or part of Clarity. It's called Insights Bar. So as I showed you before, that table, just to reiterate, if you see 80% on the graph on Clarity, it's trying to say there is 4 minutes of seizure activity, right? At that point in time. So when you see 10%, it's trying to say that it's 30-second long seizure. So Insights bar, and it's going to mark as a tiny gray bar down here, pick up interictal discharges such as LPDs, GPDs, plus IIC patterns. So you're going to see right on Clarity there, it's going to say Insight bar. When it's active with any of those three things I just mentioned, you're going to see those gray lines and gray bars. That's Insight bar, right? Again, I open a case, I don't see status, I don't see seizures. It's a flat line Clarity, but it's helpful to have this kind of second line of defense. So that's very helpful. And to show you a case on that, I pull this from my files. So this is page one. Again, you open the case and it says 00. It's a 6 hours long EEG. And you see the AI is 0, right? Which means at least there's no scenario here with long seizures or status. But it says Insights bar, and you see all these tiny gray lines and gray bars. And that's where it's trying to give you an idea. Hey, wait a second. I know I'm saying there's no status, but interictally, and there's also possibility of having tiny 10-15 second seizures in this case, especially when you see those tiny gray bars. So if I take my blue line and I move it and I say, show me that area or show me this area, you see that high burden of LPDs on left hemisphere, right? So this is your second layer of protection to pick up. Again, very helpful. Now let's quickly look at reporting this EEG, because I want to demonstrate how easy it is to report these EEGs with the new reporting template, right? So again, I'm going to go to this view report. If you have two cases, let's say you have one patient goes on a Ceribell EEG, they disconnect maybe to get a CAT scan and they reconnect it. You can club those EEGs together, and that's going to combine those durations, and it's going to add as recording 1 and 2, very helpful. And it's going to club the time into minutes and hours, again, very helpful. Now, this is your basic section of an EEG report, which is demographics, recording information and technique. Then you have the clinical history. Then you have any medications given right down here. And now I want to build my report with you guys, right? So let's say I have all this and I'm going to delete it just to show you. All right. So pretty new, right? As in there's nothing from previous. And I want to add, we saw LPDs on the left side, click LPD left. So that pull that ACNS, what we recommend guidelines reporting template. I'm going to say temporal, and you can add how often you saw, I'm going to say abundant. With that, it dropped my impression and clinical correlation, right? And I want to add more. You can keep adding. I'm going to say focal slowing on the left side. And again, it's the same thing. Whatever you select, that's going to add. The background is slow. I added diffuse slow. So you have LPDs, focal slow on the left side and diffuse slow. It dropped my clinical correlations also automatically. And there's a disclaimer and signature. So you have pretty nice report on the other side. Then I want to add my screenshots. One or two, add two. So I'm showing LPDs here. And you're pretty much done. But let's say you don't like this. You don't like the language. You don't like you have your own templates. The way I added, I'm going to type in my initials, VK, and gave me two. I have two smart faces so far, and I want the one with left-sided LPDs. I selected that, boom. All my recording information and the clinical impression correlation dropped to my report. As an epileptologist, I want more details in my reports, and all that came to my for this case. And you have my clinical correlation impression there. Boom. All I'm going to do is to copy to clipboard and go to EMR and paste it. Now, kind of moving on to the next topic, but I want to start from here. You see, there's an option called send to EMR, and I'll spend some more time on that. That's also a new feature came out last month, and it's going to be really easy and powerful tool. Instead of copying and pasting it, you can send your report from here automatically to your EMR when you integrate your this portal with your EMR, and that needs some work from IT, but it's available. Okay. And that brings me to EMR integration, right? So I look at it as a two-way street. So if you integrate this portal with your EMR, doesn't matter which one, it's going to pull data both ways, right? Now, what we do when we need to set up an EEG, cerebral rapid EEG, the nurses have to go on that tiny device and put in patient demographics and information, age, MR, and all that. And if they administer any medications, they have to go manually tap it, right? If EMR is integrated, when you have a report, when you have an order in your EMR, that automatically shows up on the recorder, which is great. So the nurses, all they had to do is, this is my patient they selected. Then it also pulls any medications administered during that EEG, what we call MAR, MAR gets had to automatically pull, and it's going to get it logged on the EEG, which is very helpful. So nurses, they're going to love it because it's going to save a lot of time for them in setting up these EEGs, right? Great. Now, for you, let's say you go to the case you reported, instead of going to EMR and checking on what happened on the patient, studying the patient history, it's going to pull all these five features I'm showing here, which is last EEG report and the medications, and I'll go one by one here. Again, very helpful. You don't have to go to EMR to learn what happened with the patient. So I'm seeing the last EEG report for my patient. Then it's pulling 24-hour medication list from MER, then attending ED note. Then if you have a neurology consult note, it's going to pull that. Last MRI or EEG report, it's going to pull from your EMR to the portal. So in kind of one stop, you get to know what happened to the patient. Then you write your report the way I demonstrated. And you say, I'm going to sign the report. And it's going to give you an option to bill for your report right here. And you can sign it. You bill for your EEG. You select your CPT code and you sign it. That automatically transfer your report, your billing code, and the CPT code, the diagnosis to your EMR. So kind of one stop and you're done. So that's EMR integration. Again, very helpful. I'm getting that. So that's good. So now my last slide for today is to show you guys what we do when we go on meetings with hospitals to show the nice upgrades and the features, and also to run the cases, their own cases we take those cases, let's say they had a false positive or they had some concerns on that particular case. We've been doing that for the last 6 weeks now and run those cases with the previous algorithm, which is V7, and the new algorithm, which is V8, and show how nicely, if we see improvement, we're going to show that. And of course, if there's no improvement, we're also going to show that. Now, just to show an example, majority of those cases with electrical artifact, EMG artifact, EKG artifact, with this new upgrade V8, we saw significant improvement in those cases. So I'm happy to show you that pretty much kind of real world cases on improvements with new Clarity V8. Okay, just to recap, wanted to summarize what we discussed in the last 35 minutes roughly. We looked at cerebral rapid EEG as a complement. I'm not replacing my conventional EEG. It's a complement. I look at it as a triage tool. It looks at, when I have patchy EEG tech service overnight or weekends, it's going to complement my system, EEG system, get the EEGs done, triage patient, look for status, non-convulsive status, yes or no, seizures, yes or no. And it can also act as a bridging tool when you're waiting for your tech to come and connect that patient the next morning to conventional EEG. Let's say patient was in status. It can also run that case and for a couple more hours and bridge that to your conventional EEG the next morning, which is great. Number one. Then we looked at clarity improvements, the insights bar, custom notifications, very helpful, and smart EEG reporting tool, and of course the settings and the data on clarity V8 versus V7. With that, maybe we'll take some questions.
Thank you so much, Dr. Kumar. If you have your questions, now would be a good time to enter them in the Q&A section at the bottom of the screen. We will try our best to get to all of them. So the first one here, Dr. Kumar, is when possible, could you show us if and how we can capture an epoch/copy to clipboard and paste straight into EMR without going through the Ceribell report?
So they want to know how to copy paste the report, is it?
Yes.
So let's go to this case. So this particular case, right? So we reported this EEG, and you go to the report, and you have your very nice two-page EEG report. Add a screenshot, and down here you have two options. One, it says copy to clipboard, and that's going to copy that. And I don't have my EMR open, so just to demonstrate here, is to show you guys, I will paste it in a Word document. And there you go. So pretty much kept my formats and my screenshots and all the data really nice. And all I had to do now is, again, cut paste from here to my EMR. That's one way of doing it. And it also gives you an option, export as. You can download a PDF, and it's going to give you that PDF. And if you have an EEG tech who can upload that, that's possible. If not, you can open the PDF, and again, it's going to look like this. Give me a second. There you go. And nice report. And from here, you can copy paste it into your EMR.
Okay, I think what this person is asking is maybe not the report, just like an EEG epoch is what they're saying here.
Oh, got it.
Mhm.
EEG epoch. So the way you do that is I use a snipping tool. If you don't want to copy from here, you can use your snipping tool the way I just did it. And you snip your EEG, and it's going to take a picture for you and copy it and paste it like this. Okay.
Okay. The next one is with the ease of use of the Ceribell system, one of the things that could like jump off the screen is you're going to get woken up all hours of the night reading these things because everyone's going to put them on. Can you just kind of walk us through your workflow there with how, it actually can maybe keep you asleep at night?
Yeah. Very good question. Okay, I'm going to go to my workflow. I have a few extra slides here. There you go. So this is my workflow, right? And if I want to break it down, one thing is to introduce the technology, right? So I'm introducing the technology which I didn't have. So now I'm going to get overnight EEG. So I know that. And on the weekend, I will get one or two EEGs here and there, right? With Ceribell, the machine, the recorder shows the bedside team what's the percentage. So they know how active the patient is or how non-active the patient is. So based on that, what I do is create a workload. What I have done is to create this workflow and add clinical suspicion, right? As an epileptologist who's covering EEG, and sometimes someone called for neurology, I may know a little bit of patient history, but not all the time if I'm just looking at the EEG. So I want bedside. I train my ICU and ED bedside team on clinical suspicion based on clinical picture, what's high versus low. So that's on that axis. On the other axis, I have Clarity AI broken down into four different categories, right? Less than 10%, 10 to 49, 50 to 89, and more than 90%. So you see this big circle. What it's trying to tell you is that if you have 10 cases through Cerebral, seven of those cases, the AI is going to be less than 10%, where nowadays I change this and I say less than 0%, right? If you have if you have 0%, you're not going to see status and seizure. So that's going to limit 7 out of 10 cases going to be your rule out cases, encephalopathy, normal EEG once in a while, maybe a PNES, or maybe a cardiac arrest patient. Now maybe zero point 0.5 or 1 out of 10 cases. Clarity AI is going to be more than 90%, and the suspicion is low. So we need both of those to say, okay, for the bedside team to give a first line medication, the way they would have done without EEG, right? They would have treated this patient empirically if the clinical suspicion is high. Now you're supporting that with Clarity EEG AI data that is, yes, patient is actually right based on a clinical suspicion. Even I am saying patient is likely in non-convulsive status epilepticus, and we are okay for that particular patient to get a first dose of anti-seizure medication or a tiny dose of benzo.
Okay, thank you. The next one here pertains to the custom notifications. So, how do you see custom notifications enhancing the communication between reading neurology and the bedside team?
Right. So one thing is to make sure you're in the loop so you know when the EEG is up and running. Right. Let me see if I have a slide there. Anyways, um, one thing is you're in control. When a patient goes on a cerebral EEG and when patient goes into tiny seizures or status, you get to know. Just last week, um, 9:30 in the night, I was having dinner. I get a text message that patient is in status and or patient AI is at 20%. I go on my phone and I see a seizure, a tiny focal seizure, 1.5 minute long, and I text the bedside team, hey, this patient just had a seizure, right? So I'm not relying on the nurses to keep an eye on the EEG all the time. If you run the EEG for 2 hours, I can't have my nurse stand right next to the patient the way we do with EEG technicians. So that's going to bring down their work burden. Then you have a nice quick update to me, which can alert me to look at those EEGs. Then I can communicate that with my bedside team. So it's a win-win for all three of us.
Okay, another one here on the custom notifications. Does each individual reader have to set up their own notifications, or is it set up by the hospital that they're reading for in general?
Yeah, so that feature of having a admin set up the call the way we do call is not available yet. I know they're working on it. I can say that. So right now, what we need to do is to go on the portal, your individual account, because it's going to link that to your phone number, and you turn it on. So what I do to keep it simple, if I'm on call this week, Monday, I go when I start my call today, I just turn it on the top, and when I'm done, I turn it off. So I don't have to spend a lot of time in setting it up. So it should be pretty quick.
Okay, this next one, how common is EKG artifact?
Like any EEG, you will see EKG artifact once in a while, not too common. Depends on the patient and the nurses. There is a feedback to the nurses when they set up these EEGs. If they are seeing a lot of artifact, the electrode on the recorder, the way the picture shows, um, it's going to be in red, saying that there's a lot of artifact coming, maybe EKG or electrode pop or any of those. So that's going to help the nurse to move it a little bit and redo that particular electrode, maybe electrode number 4 or 6, any of those. But once in a while, when you see EKG artifact, clarity with that, what I showed, artifact rejection module, is going to reject it. And there's nice ways of filtering out those artifacts. Should not be a big problem.
Okay. Next one. This was in regards to clarity. What patterns does clarity tend to miss?
So when you say miss, right? So I won't use the word miss. If you look at, again, based on the data I showed and my experience reading thousands of these EEGs, clarity is very sensitive. I would say extremely sensitive. So I have not seen a single case of status being missed or having near continuous seizures or continuous seizures being missed by clarity. Clarity picks up a lot. What I would say is when you see cases at lower percentage, maybe I would say 20, 30 percentage, you can see IIC, you can see LPDs, and as I said beginning, that's going to drop your specificity, but the sensitivity in picking up seizures and status is really high. So the answer is I have not seen a status or a case of near continuous seizures being missed by clarity in my last, at least in the last 3 years or 5 years. So it got really better after 2021 and 2022, which also speaks to the improvement, right? So there's a big team sitting and making the AI better and better with more data. So every year it gets better. So I have not seen any of those misses in the last 3 years at least.
Okay. This next one I think is in regards to like workflow. When it comes to conventional EEG, do you follow all of your Ceribells with the conventional? And if not, how do you determine who gets conventional based on the Ceribell read?
Yeah, so that's a very good question. And to make it easy to the bedside team and for neurology, um, as a policy or kind of understanding, what we do is when clarity crosses 50%, those cases are abnormal, right? Again, maybe seizures or very abnormal EEG patterns. So those patients go into a conventional EEG the next morning, especially after hours. You see those, we don't have techs after 7 p.m. So those patients go to conventional. So if you have 10 cases, again, maybe 2 or 3 are going to be more than 50%. So those patients get transferred to conventional EEG or converted to conventional EEG. But I don't convert every single cerebral EEG one on one to a conventional EEG because that's a waste of resource, right? Um, as a screening tool, as I said, it does a great job in ruling out status and seizures, and that's what I'm looking for. If I see encephalopathy on an EEG and clarity is 0, I don't have to repeat that patient the next morning with a conventional EEG. So if I see status, LPDs or any of those interictual patterns, or AI is more than 50, those patients go to a conventional EEG the next day.
Okay, thank you. With Ceribell being, I think this is maybe just like the entire product. With Ceribell being a circumferential montage, um, do you as an epileptologist have any concerns with maybe that you're missing something in the parasagittal region?
Yeah, so it's a very, very common question, right? As epilepsy folks and neurologists, um, we know conventional EEG with a full setup. And actually, I have a case right here. Um, I know this is a common question, so I pulled my own patient as an abstract and I submitted this and I published this. So this is that particular patient who is an 84-year-old. Maybe I'll spend a minute, Tim, if that's okay, to discuss that case. So it's going to answer the question on limited montage with parasagittal seizures, right? This lady, 84-year-old lady with prior stroke, seizure disorder, comes in with worsening speech and a suspected seizure by EMS, right? So they said some twitching and facial twitching. And patient comes to ED gets the basic workup, goes on Ceribell because patient was confused, and the clarity showed what you're seeing here, as in it's going up and down between 10 to 20%, right? And we look at the EEG, and patient was actually having brief seizures. And I'll come to the localization in a minute. And clinically, patient was having facial twitching and speech changes. So patient got lorazepam and levetiracetam, and then finally had to get a second seizure medication, lacosamide. But that's not the point what I'm showing here. The point is parasagittal seizures and limited montage, right? So I have three screenshots of Ceribell, and the patient immediately after Ceribell, after half an hour, I believe, went on conventional EEG, and I'm showing side by side seizure, right? So this is Ceribell EEG here, and what I see is not a great onset, in my opinion, but it does look very suspicious in these two channels, which is left frontotemporal, anterior frontal, and temporal, and this is the same patient with a seizure on conventional EEG, and you see that nice seizure onset from F3 and C3, which is the parasagittal montage, right? So if I go to next screenshot here, right? So now on Ceribell, this is next page, both on Ceribell and conventional EEG. I see a very nice evolution on Ceribell and same thing on conventional EEG, but now you see the entire left parasagittal region and the left frontotemporal region. It's pretty much now generalized to the left hemisphere, and there's also some spread to the right side. So now I have no doubt calling this a seizure based on cerebral EEG, right? So in this case, what I'm trying to show you guys is that on Ceribell, the seizure onset, we didn't see a very nice, great onset, in my opinion, but it started somewhere here, and second and third electrode on the left side. But on conventional EEG, very nice onset, F3, C3. And I teach my residents and my neurologists and fellows that seizures electricity, right? You're going to see spread, you're going to see evolution. It's not going to sit in one area. It's very, 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 very rare. And I rarely see that it's so focal that it's not spreading at all. And if you have a patient with confusion or any of those, definitely those seizures are spreading. And that's this particular case nicely demonstrating seizures starting from left parasagittal region and Ceribell picking up in the lateral channel. So I'm not missing seizures. So that's the answer, that if you have seizures from parasagittal, the lateral channels on the Ceribell is going to pick it up. You may not see a nice onset, but you do see a nice evolution and offset. So you're not going to miss seizures.
Okay, thank you. I think the last question we have here that we're going to have time for, because we want to be sensitive to running up on the hour, is you mentioned that this patient that you walked us through had the Ceribell placed in the ED. What value do you put on having Ceribell in the ED?
Oh, really, really helpful and highly valuable, right? So ED, before Ceribell, I would have patients sit in the ED with a few things. If I don't have a tech, and if patient is not actively seizing clinically but confused, there's a high chance of those patients being in non-convulsive seizures and status. And those patients would be sitting till the next morning getting an EEG. So I had to change that. Number two problem is that over treatment, anything which can be twitching and posturing, and it could be just myoclonus, it could be something else, or PNES, right? A lot of our patients in ED, they come in with PNES, and they can be convincing, and they get benzodiazepine, benefit of doubt, clinical suspicion without the EEG. So that's the other end of the spectrum, which is over treatment. So you have under treatment in non-convulsive status and seizures, and you have over treatment in patients who are having anything which can look like seizure-like activity but not actually seizures. So and patients come through ED, right? I don't have time 2 hours or 8 hours or 12 hours if patient is in ED before they go to floor or go to ICU to get an EEG. So yeah, if you have even if you have 24/7 EEG service, both in ED and ICU or on the floor, it's difficult to send a tech down to ED and get an EEG done. It's going to take another 45 minutes and have someone read those EEGs. And again, you can add 1 more hour. So roughly you're looking at minimum 2.5 hours in getting an EEG in ED. I don't have 2.5 hours to spend on that particular patient either, as I said, over treatment or under treatment. And that's very helpful to have Cerebral there, where you're going to get an answer in 10 minutes because you need 5 minutes to set it up. And you will have in 5 minutes, Clarity AI is going to give you data on what's the percentage. Because if patient is in status in 5 minutes, the AI is going to cross 90% and you'll know.
Thank you. Well, that wraps up the presentation and the question Q&A session of the presentation. But if you do have further questions, we're always available to answer them. Dr. Kumar, thank you so much for sharing your
So
expertise on the Ceribell system. We hope you guys all enjoyed the presentation, and we hope you all have a wonderful night. Thank you.
thank you.